It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. This podcast was formed to collectively build a bank of stories from normal people sharing their non-linear paths. Unfortunately, social media paints a narrow picture of what success looks like, so I'm doing my best to spread the news that changing course is common and you don't have to know what you want to do the rest of your life at 18. If you're a parent worried about your young adult and whether their path is leading them to success, you're in the right place. I'm a therapeutic consultant who works with young adults to connect them with resources that'll help them get back on a better path. So if you're curious, let's chat. You can schedule a free consultation through my website, which you can find the link for in the show notes. Today, my guest is Gretchen Schoser. Gretchen has spent over 30 years in corporate HR tech, helping companies hire and onboard talent. But her journey has been anything but linear. In late 2022, a perfect storm of loss, change, and burnout led her to a suicide attempt on Christmas Day, and it completely shifted how she sees life. With the love of her wife and the 988 Lifeline, she found her way back and turned her pain into purpose. She co-hosts Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, an award-winning mental health podcast reaching millions, and she runs Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions, where she helps businesses build healthy, human-centered workplaces. Her path has been messy, but it's made her a fierce believer that our hardest chapters can lead to our most meaningful work. Let's not wait any longer. Here's Gretchen. Gretchen, thanks for being a guest on the podcast. I'm excited to chat.
I'm so excited to be here. This is like the highlight of my day. So,
okay, well, no pressure. I actually want to hear, well, first and foremost, again, thank you for being willing to have a conversation with me. I'm excited to talk about the work that you're doing now because it's super impactful and important, and people need to know it if they're, for whatever reason, like living under a rock and aren't familiar with it. But in case they are, no offense, audience, if you aren't familiar with Gretchen, you will be by the end of this interview. We're going to start with what I typically do with any of the guests, which is we're just getting a little bit of background information. So I would love for you to even just let us know, where did you grow up? Like what town, city, state? So we have like some cultural reference of like where you were way back when. And then I want to segue into eventually talking about like, how did we end up getting where we are now?
perfect. So I grew up just outside of Denver in a small town of Littleton. I went to Columbine High School. I graduated in 82. Yeah, I am showing my age. Thank you. Yeah, Grandma Goose right here. But, I grew up outside, playing with the boys. There weren't a whole lot of girls around where I was growing up. So, I was one of the kids and, riding bikes. We lived on this awesome, awesome hill. And the great thing about this hill is, in the wintertime, it was the most perfect hill to go down. It was slick as shit. If you didn't have snow tires on your car, you were not getting back up that hill. But we would just tear down that hill, on our sleds, on our bikes. It was a developing community. And so there were a ton of new houses being built around us. And, kids being kids, and, we were kind of little dicks. We would go and ram it, go through all those houses, go up the steps, go into the unfinished basements, go and play all day, all night. The only time we came home is when our moms would call us. I didn't have a phone or a pager or any of that crap when I was growing up. Thank God, because there are things that we did that nobody else needs to know about. But, I got to, it was just a different lifestyle. I spent all my time outside.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my love of nature. So.
Well, and I'm just even thinking too, from an educational perspective, what was it, 90s is really when all of a sudden, from a a K through 12 perspective, we really push this like go to college. Like that's where it just like extremely ramped up. It was less about the like go learn, explore, scrape your knee, like be outside, like enjoy nature, be present, make friends, and then also navigate conflict. It was all these life lessons. And now all of a sudden in the classroom, we're like bypassing a lot of these experiences in and out of the classroom. And it gets really hyper focused on like, you need to do well on these tests so that you can go to college. And it just, obviously, I'm like really leaning into this judgment, but the shift existed. And so you're talking about a time where honestly, like a lot of folks nowadays almost dream that life could be like that now because of a lot of what's playing out in society.
Oh yeah, like I'm really happy like we didn't have social media. We didn't have those influences. But, even thinking about, my parents trying to get me to go to college and, what's your life decision and what road are you going to take? Like, I don't know. I was 18. All I wanted to do was like get stoned in the parking lot and like not care about anything. I was the oldest of four. Like, I didn't care. But I eventually went to college, bombed out the first time. Because it was like 18-year-olds, we're not equipped, right? We weren't equipped to like handle all the stress, handle all the other things. And I was kind of in a partying stage. When I graduated from college or from high school, I was like the oldest of my class. I had been held back when I was second grade. And so I was older than all my other friends. But here's the cool thing about living in Colorado, because at the time, if you were 18, you could buy beer. So I was like everybody's supplier, not like a badge of honor, okay? But, it worked in my benefit. But, the first time around in college, it was super hard, right? Like, I was away from home. I'm, trying to make friends. And then even as an extrovert, I mean, it was still hard. It was a very traumatic experience. So, ended up going back home, eventually moved to downtown Denver for a little while, because I couldn't get the partying out of me. And then, it got to a point where my drug problem got really out of hand. And my parents kind of gave me an ultimatum. They're like, you either stop or you leave. Well, they gave me a one-way ticket, and so I moved to Florida because I couldn't stop. But, once I got to Florida, I didn't have any money, so I had to stop. I didn't have a choice. And that right before my mom passed away, she said that was the best thing I ever did for me because I had to clean up. I had to become self-sufficient. I took a really like hard choice. I'm like, well, I could stay here and probably die, or
Yeah.
let's take that free ticket and go someplace warm. But what was funny is the year that I moved to Florida, it was colder in Florida that winter than it was in Colorado. I'm like, "This is bullshit. I thought I left the cold ass weather. This is stupid."
Well,
Like, I
it's
need
it's
pants.
humid. It's humid cold too. So it's like it is cold to the bone.
Cold to the bone. And like, I didn't take a whole lot of warm clothes with me because I thought, I thought I was moving to like the sunny South Florida. It's gonna be beautiful. Hell no, girl. I was freezing.
Oh my
Freezing.
gosh.
But I also had an opportunity to start funding myself because now I didn't have people I could take money from. I actually had to go and like make my own money, and I did not finish my college education until I was in my late 40s. But I finished it, and I was really proud of myself because I got my bachelor's, and then I went ahead and got my master's. So
Okay. Well, and I always tell people college doesn't go anywhere, but it doesn't. It's easier for me to say that. It's different for somebody to be an adult learner in higher ed because there still is so much internalized stigma of, college really is focused more on this like 18 to 22 cohort of people that should, quote unquote, should be studying. But I think going back to your comment earlier about 18-year-olds really having no clue about who they are, what they want to do, colleges actually could benefit from focusing on people that are like have had lived experience because those are folks are motivated. Here you are saying like, look, I got my bachelor's in my late 40s and then I went and got my master's.
Yeah. I mean, but like if I think about it like from a standpoint of me being a kid, right? High school didn't really prepare me for what was gonna like hit me in the face once I made it to campus.
Mm.
They did a really poor job, and I don't have any kids, but I'm hoping that like parents out there now are asking better questions, and that schools now are have better programs in place for those kids that, you know, kinda have this partying attitude and, like because for me, like, when I ended up finishing school, I was paying for it out of pocket. I was also working full time. So, like, for the kids that are out there, like, if you're going to school on your mom and dad's dime, like, make it count. Like, do the things that are gonna bring you some joy. And I don't think a lot of kids in the first year freshman kids maybe don't have a lot of joy, right? Because some of them are escaping home life, some are just trying to find their footing, some people are just trying to figure out like what their next step is, right? Like
Mm.
let's make it easier on them because my experience was horrible, but part of that was me. I can't I don't really have anybody else I can blame. It was me. So, yeah, I'm okay with it. I turned out okay.
Well, and I want to actually ask too about the getting your master's. Just curious, kind of what industry you were working in, and then I want to make sure that we're also talking about the work that you're doing now too. So, what did you end up getting your master's in, just for curiosity's sake?
Information technology, because at the time I was working heavily with computers and, customer service and just wanted a really well-rounded master's so I could use it for if I was ever going to do any like teaching or anything like that. And yes, what I learned was applicable to what I was doing, but not 100% applicable. So for a lot of the stuff that I learned on the job. I learned on things that I would never learn in college.
Okay.
So college is not everything it's cracked up to be, I'm just saying.
Mm, mic drop. Literally. I say that, and then I also say what I said earlier, which is like college can wait, because I think there's just such this pressure of like, if you're not in school at 18 or 19 or 20, like, oh, you'll never go to school. Well, here you are telling your story of how you went back in your 40s like that, and you're working full time and you're motivated. You've got a purpose. There's something that you're doing with intention, and then you're proud of yourself when you completed it. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I don't think that our brains are even developed enough when we're that young to understand what it is that we're going through.
And it's part of that. And then it's also the workforce is changing now. They are looking for people with more lived and worked experience than education. Because let's think if you are maybe a director, right? And you're out of school, literally out of school, like 3 months. You don't have those lived experiences. You may have theory, but you don't have lived experiences to know exactly how something should run or how something should work. So I think that companies that are focusing more on lived experience are going to have a better outcome than hiring that 20-year-old that just graduated college.
Yeah. Like you said, the workforce is changing too, and a lot of it is about like we need more experience. It's less about the piece of paper that you have, though sometimes that is important and necessary, but more important is like how you're going to show up as a coworker, dealing with conflict, under deadlines, whatever the case may be. Like, that's the kind of stuff that equally matters.
Team projects too,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
all of it.
like teaches you how to play nice with other people. Yeah, like school doesn't teach you that. Like
No.
work experience will teach you how to play nice with others.
So I didn't meet you in the information systems, like computer science space. Like, that was not how we connected. So why don't you tell the audience what else you've got cooking?
So I have other things cooking. At the age of 61, I decided to open up my own company because I spent 45 years in corporate America, and you know what? I'm pretty much done. But I wanted to do things that would help me find my joy. because even at 61, I'm still an active learner. I still like to get my hands dirty. I like to play with things. And so my company is it's two pieces. I have a very technical side where I do stuff with like UKG, recruiting and onboarding, system implementations. But then I have a whole other side of my business, which is all about wellness and mental wellness within companies and making sure that small businesses, because small businesses are the ones that kind of get the shaft all the time. They don't have the money to get the big shiny tools. And I want to go into organizations and help them draft up some really good mental wellness tools for their employees. Because now more than ever, because the world is literally on fire, those employees need those resources. And it's more compact in a smaller company because oftentimes they only have like 25, maybe 250 employees. And if you have one rogue employee that is burnt out, it will affect every single other employee in your company. And I have now been working with a program called Base 44, and I'm developing apps for small companies. I have a couple people testing things out for me. And I also designed a course. We haven't talked since then, but I designed a course and it's called The Joy Shift. And it's all the tools I used during a really difficult time in my life to get to find my joy again. And it's all about setting boundaries and taking your mask off and doing all the things that will help you show up as your authentic self to work. Because I will tell you, I don't care how good you're at hiding your mental health, it does not stop happening once you get to the door of your office or the door of your home office. Those feelings and that crap in your head is still there. And I want to make sure that people are set up with the tools for success. And it's from a lived experience. So I'm not a certified coach, but I have 45 years of working in corporate America and 62 years of living on Earth that I can share stuff that actually worked. Because 3 years ago, I almost didn't make it. I was 20 minutes from taking my life. And thank God for 988, I'm alive today. And so I want to take that gift and I want to share it with the world. And this is the happiest I've ever been. I love what I'm doing.
So how do people connect with you? Because you just rattled off all the things, right? I created a course. I've got some apps that are in the work. Like I've got this website. I can, do coaching for companies. So how do they find you?
You can go out to schosersolutions.com. And on the website, you can schedule a free 30-minute, call with me. No matter what you want to talk about, you can just set up some time. Let's talk through what you need and see if I'm a good fit. I'm pretty open right now. I don't have a whole lot of things going on in my life. But, because I'm 62, and if I want to take a nap, I can go take a nap right in the middle of the day.
This is really why you need to work for yourself, right? Anybody listening, you're questioning whether or not you want to be your own boss. That right there is why.
That is a good why. But, there are so many small companies or even medium-sized companies that just don't know where to turn. They don't know, who to look for. And, a coaching certificate is all well and good. And so is a degree in social work. That's all well and good. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to get more bang for your buck with somebody who has lived experiences than you may get from somebody that just got their coaching certificate or their mental health certificate. I can help you kind of figure out, what you can do. It could be as simple as giving your team a day off for mental wellness. Setting up a safe space for them to go have a meltdown, because we all have meltdowns. I mean, I know I have in my career. There are things that I've done that I wish that I probably didn't do, but you know what? We live and learn. But making it easier for people to come to work as their authentic selves, because that's what affects the bottom line. If your entire team is completely burned out, stressed out, and you are not taking the time to make sure that they're okay or giving them tools where they can maybe figure out what's going on, you're doing a huge disservice to your employees.
Yeah. I love how you really talked about wellness too, because I just think that that's, we do focus a lot on mental health, and I'm not going to minimize the importance of mental health because I mean, that's the industry that I work in. Like, mental health is very important. And that's why, that's how I pay the bills. But wellness in general, like if we're talking about somebody that feels socially disconnected or physically they're unwell, like the collective of all of those things, and there are other categories of wellness, but just in general, I think what you're talking about is being able to provide space for us to be humans and to actually be able to take care of ourselves.
For sure. I mean, like, think about your employees that maybe have ADHD or have Asperger's or, autism. Yeah, are you taking care of those employees? Because they function differently at work. Like, when you move their cheese, they are not happy. Like, doing the things you think are common sense, but you're too afraid to put them in play. And a lot of the stuff that I, talk to companies about, it doesn't cost you anything, maybe a little bit of time, but it's not going to cost you any money. And it's simple things. And I think for me, that's really important. And in the 45 years I spent in corporate America, only one company ever really did it right. The rest of them kind of sucked at it, but they're trying. And I will say, like, over the last 3 years, I've seen more and more like things on LinkedIn where companies are trying to make those changes, trying to implement a small change. I think that a lot has to do with just like the current state of affairs. There's
Yeah.
a lot going on. People don't have just their day to day stuff, there's a lot coming at them every place else. So
Yeah.
giving them time and place, you know, being compassionate, recognizing if your employees are burned out or stressed out. Like, those are important things to have in your mental health toolkit to just make sure you have a good, like, smooth working, oiled up ship at the office. That's all you need. It's
Yeah.
easy.
I love that. So anybody that's listening, obviously reach out to Gretchen. We have the contact information in show notes, and check out all of the cool things that she's doing. And in case you're recognizing her voice or you're not, there are other things that bring you joy that you are doing, which I think is creating equally a significant pebble in the pond, right? The ripple effect in having this greater conversation. So talk about one of the other passion projects that you're working on.
That would be our podcast. So, right after all the horrible things in my life went down, me and my co-host Dirty Skittles, we created an amazing podcast, and the podcast name is Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, and it's shit with an exclamation point because can't use the other word. I don't know why, but our mission is to normalize how we talk about mental health. When I was going through my own mental health struggles, and I was 59 and a half at the time, I couldn't find a podcast that really vibed with me, had, a little bit of levity into it, and I walked away learning a lesson. So with our podcast, we not only interview guests, but we have some really hard topics that we talk about, but we always add a little bit of laughter into those episodes because it makes it more human. And like I said, I will say it forever. Hindsight is 2020, and I can go back and laugh at a lot of stuff that happened prior to that. But everybody that comes onto the podcast or anybody that listens says it sounds like we're just sitting around the fire shooting the shit about life's problems, and that's truly what it is. I'm extremely fortunate that I've got to do this for the last 3 years. My co-host and I are the best of friends. We record 7 episodes, one Saturday a month, and we just started to release 2 episodes a week because we got a little backed up. But for me, it is absolutely free therapy, one Saturday a month, and I love, love, love every single one of our guests because they bring themselves, vulnerability and all, to the microphone, and they help others feel not so alone in their journey. And the biggest thing for me is every time we share our stories, we unlock somebody else's prison. And for me, that has never been truer. I didn't start going on podcasts until March just to tell my story. And I had a life shift. I wasn't happy. I got super depressed. And I made changes to make myself happy. And in doing that, we have this incredible platform that's not geographically based. So we are listened to in over 100 countries, and we have people reach out to us daily saying thank you. And so for me, that is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, next to writing my book. So my book is with an editor right now. I went with a hybrid publisher. I'm putting out an Indiegogo campaign probably by Friday because, writing a book is not cheap. And they also have resources that I just don't have the time for. Okay. Marketing is not my big thing. But I'm excited to get that out because it talks about what happened and what I did after that happened. I want people to see me as a story of hope because at 59 and a half, I was 20 minutes away from taking my own life. But I took every bit of that pain and turned it into purpose and my passion, and there's absolutely no stopping us now. We have some really cool things coming out shortly. So if you listen to our season 14 opener, you'll see why.
And we'll make sure that we have the links in the show notes for not just the podcast, but information about the book. And really, like, circling back, that's why you and I initially had that conversation where I was like, I need you on as a guest, A, because I just like you, but B, because when this book does go out, this is a book that every parent of a young adult who is struggling with any type of mental health needs to pick it up. And the young adults themselves also need to read it. Obviously, my lens is young adults, this emerging adult population. Everybody that is listening, it doesn't matter who you are, like age range, developmental, like period, should be reading it. But obviously, I'm going to hyper fixate on a population that sometimes can be identified or flagged as most at risk to make very impulsive decisions, regardless of whether or not there's mental health history. So anyways, again, I'm grateful for all of the things that you are doing. I personally am like just witnessing all of this domino effect of like you said, your purpose, your passion. And so I want to continue to be a supporter of all of the things that you're doing. And I'm going to encourage my audience again to make sure that you check out everything in the show notes.
If you want to learn more about the podcast, go out to goesonourheads.net. All our resources, all our episodes are out there, but you can find us anywhere. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We are an audio-only podcast, but if you have any friends that are deaf and can get like maybe some valuable information, we have the captions so they're turned on, and you can go ahead and read the whole episode.
I love that. Okay, well, we're running out of time. Gretchen, thank you so much for sharing your story, being a guest, being you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously.
I love this. Thank you so much for having me on. This was amazing.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.